Welcome back, everybody, to another episode here on the O'Shea Duke Jackson channel. I am your host, O'Shea Duke Jackson. I definitely appreciate all of you that have been waiting in the queue here for the show to start. I definitely appreciate you being here. For those of you who are in the re-streaming audience, I definitely welcome you also to the channel. Today, we have a sort of a business show. It is a business show. And it's been with a brother that has been participating on some of the business streams on the O'Shea Broadcast channel. I came into the knowledge of him about a few months ago, and he is currently in the cannabis industry. And I know a lot of people have been interested in this new burgeoning market and booming business. And so today we're going to talk about how to make good money in the cannabis business. We are here with the Engineering Cannabis YouTube channel. So he's been a very, very busy brother. So I'm glad he was able to finally come and share the information with us. What's going on, family? How you doing today?
Hey, what's up? Thanks, O'Shea, for basically allowing me to present this information to everybody about the cannabis industry. Because right now, the cannabis industry is basically blowing up. It's getting bigger and bigger each day. So I'll present some stats and some information that basically might be helpful for individuals who are trying to get into the cannabis industry itself.
Okay. Let me ask you, and guys, you see in there in the chat. Let's talk a little bit more about your background before we get into the engineering cannabis. What were you doing before this business, and what is your background as far as business experience and stuff like that?
So my background, I'm like everybody else. I have a 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
I have a bachelor in civil engineering, a master's in civil engineering. I've worked in different industries from the oil to motor vehicles to chemical industries, and currently I'm working in the government. And I design some stuff for the government currently. So I've I've gone through different industries, and currently I'm still in my 9 to 5. So I work with a partner, and basically we decided to basically come up with an engineering firm, engineering and tech for basically cannabis business owners. And me and my partner basically founded the firm.
Mm-hmm.
And after my 9 to 5, I go home and sit down with my partner. On my partner is in another state,
Okay.
and we Skype and basically come up with ideas and different ways to basically help the cannabis industry and solve problems. That's the goal: solve problems and make money from that.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Let me ask you this: you have a very really good academic background in engineering. How did you even find out, or what made you want to be interested in this industry when you already have a really, really solid background and a really, really good performing job?
So first thing I'll give props to Miss Erica Williams. Her
Mm-hmm.
channel, she talked about cannabis one time, and I took a course. I did that. Then also when I was basically looking at tech startups, and a lot of tech startups, there's a lot. It's basically full of Caucasian young dudes and all that, and I'm not seeing people like me being represented.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying this is tech. It's not that difficult to basically solve problems in this tech.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, what's the upcoming industry that I can apply my skills to and basically make a decent amount of money and recognition? So I decided, okay, cannabis it's an up and coming industry,
Okay.
and they need a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of problems. And I always say, when there's a lot of problems, there's a lot of opportunity to make money. So the cannabis industry, there's a lot of problems and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of opportunity to make money. And there's a lot of avenues to enter the cannabis business. You don't need to touch the plant directly. You can be ancillary. You don't need to touch it. You can enter into. I know chefs that are basically cooking with cannabis. I know people who throw venues or throw parties for cannabis. So they make good and real decent money doing this. And basically, you can enter the space doing, if you have a certain type of skill, you can enter the space and basically make a lot of profit from it.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this question because you talked about there are a lot of problems in the cannabis industry. Whenever you can solve problems, you can make money, which I definitely agree with. But one may wonder, what are the problems that are in the
Ooh,
cannabis industry that you can, if you don't mind?
there are a lot of. So first things first, we got to talk about the law. So currently, federally, it's still illegal to hold cannabis. To wholesale, or it's still federally illegal to hold cannabis. So now it's state by state. Each state has to basically create their own laws in it. So imagine each state have different laws. How are you going to navigate each state in terms of starting a business?
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the big problems, navigating the laws. And I always tell in my channel, I said the biggest opportunity comes from learning the laws, the details in the laws. If you know those laws and the details, you know there are problems on those laws, and you can solve problems in that, and you can make money from it. So laws and requirements are the big issue. Another one is banking.
Mm-hmm.
The laws in each in states, they don't allow a lot of banking. So cannabis businesses don't even store their money in the banks. Some of them store their money in safes in their own cannabis shop. So what opportunity arises from just storing money from shops? Security. You
Mm-hmm.
can have security businesses. Just security businesses are making money, major money in just Detroit and Michigan. That's just one area. Security, basically armed security and any kind of security in terms of cannabis itself, and also courier service in terms of trucking service around state, because you can't go through state line because it's still illegal federally. So
Mm-hmm.
you can't cross state line. You can't cross to California and say you want to go to New Mexico or somebody. You can't do that. But within the state, the courier service is also booming. So that's a huge industry, especially in the cannabis, the courier service. So the problems are banking requirements and safety. Those are the three major problems in there, especially requirements and laws. The laws are changing almost every quarter. You might have laws today dealing with containers.
Mm-hmm.
You, if you, in order to basically sell weed to anybody, it has to be in a child-proof container. It has to be well sealed, and it has to be odorless. So just that, I know people who are manufacturing just containers and making money just from containers for cannabis business, just manufacturing containers for cannabis business, and they're making money from it. So
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of problems and a lot of issues, and these are just a couple of the issues in there.
Again, it was banking,
Banking,
safety,
safety, and laws and requirements.
laws and
And
requirements. Okay.
yeah, and what I believe is that's why my channel is basically a tech channel too. I
Mm-hmm.
believe tech is also a huge avenue to solve most of these problems.
Okay.
And that's why I focus on tech. I focus on ways to basically get a certification if it's a data analyst way or a cybersecurity. You can be a cybersecurity analyst right now and start a business in the cannabis and make so much money because right now they're looking for individuals who can do this stuff in the cannabis business itself.
Let me ask you. We talked about this before the stream started. Um, you're talking about there's certain industries that are being affected or could be affected by cannabis. I know you mentioned trucking is one of them. But do you want to talk about those right now?
Sure. So in the cannabis industry, it's basically staged that in the next 2 years it's going to be a $30 billion business
Yeah.
industry. For the next 2 years, it's going to be a $30 billion industry. So because your channel, most of your channel, you focus on trucking, real estate, and tech. So let's go with real estate. So real estate, let's go with Colorado. Colorado is now a recreational and a medical cannabis state. So previously, when in Colorado, you couldn't get any real estate. Previously, at 50,000, you could get real estate before cannabis. You could buy a house at $50,000.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, you can't even buy a house for $150,000 in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to see that price because the real estate market has basically doubled or tripled because of cannabis itself.
Mm-hmm.
And also, 76% of the state income tax comes from cannabis. 76% of their state taxes comes from cannabis sales.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a huge revenue just for Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
So now I always reference there's a state nobody's talking about that's going to be bigger than Colorado,
Mm-hmm.
and this state is Michigan. Michigan adopted last year recreational cannabis, but the law is going to be passed probably next year or the upper year.
Mm-hmm.
So in Michigan, we have Detroit. Detroit has a market, has something that Colorado doesn't even have, and it's going to make it bigger. And what it is Canada. Detroit is just beside Canada. It's the
Mm-hmm.
neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
And Canada is currently a legal country for cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine the sales and revenues coming from Canada and Detroit. Once it's basically even legalized federally, Detroit will become basically the next weed hub of the country because it's close and in proximity to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be a huge boost in revenue just from Detroit. So I always tell people, if you're going to buy any kind of property, run. Hussein Bolt your ass to Detroit right now and get some property in Detroit right now,
Mm-hmm.
because Detroit is going to be a huge market
Mm-hmm.
because of the legal cannabis and because it's close proximity to Canada itself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be a huge. That's just going to change that real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if you want to get into the real estate arena in terms of being a real estate agent, you can do that basically in the cannabis industry. If you know the laws and the requirements, if you know which states and which cities basically allow cannabis, and also if you want to basically, if you want to sell to a cultivator, and you know, okay, this land has access to public facilities, water, and all that, you can easily sell it to a cannabis business owner or even a company. You can be a real estate agent just for cannabis industry itself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a huge market just coming in, and it's stated to change a lot of stuff, especially in the real estate.
Let me talk about something you said a little bit earlier. You talked about entering the space. If you have a certain type of skill, you can be successful. Now, I know that you were an engineer, obviously. You're still an engineer. And so that way of thinking and academic training allowed you to enter the space. What type of skill set does someone need, in your opinion, to be able to, in order to be effective and find their niche in this new industry, in the cannabis industry?
So you can basically, let me say this: nobody can come in and say I'm the sole expert in cannabis,
Mm-hmm.
because one, the laws are still changing. There's no federal law; the state laws are still changing. I right now I'm reading a 600-page Illinois law right now, trying to figure out what's going on in Illinois. And Illinois just passed recreational cannabis. So anybody can enter the space if you know what problems you're willing to solve. If
Mm-hmm.
you're in digital marketing, just for example, digital marketing, do you know Facebook and other platforms don't allow basically anything dealing with cannabis marketing? If you mention anything cannabis, you can't do paid advertising. But if you can
Mm-hmm.
figure it out and figure out how to basically market people's cannabis products and market it correctly and make profit from it, they'll pay you thousands of dollars just to learn how to market cannabis properly. And you know there are laws under basically how to market, even marketing. There's laws in marketing, who
Mm-hmm.
you can market to, where you can market it. There are laws that prohibits you from marketing to certain age groups. So if you can understand the laws and then use your skill with the laws and then navigate through the cannabis industry, you can make a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
even from cooking, from infusion of cannabis in products. You
Mm-hmm.
can. I know a lot of people who infuse cannabis in different products, and well, you have to get a license. But you can make money from anything you think you can do. You're doing in your current job or anything. You can basically transition into the cannabis industry. There isn't anybody who says you should be an expert. The laws are changing. Everybody's trying to basically navigate in this space right now too. So anybody with any kind of skill, if you can cook, if you can market, if you're in tech, if you trucking, especially trucking, if you can basically come in this space if you can do anything. There's no restriction in terms of how high level it is, because it's still the cannabis industry is still in its infancy, so it's still coming up.
Mm-hmm.
It's not grown yet. Remember, there's only 11 states that have recreation. So we have only 11 states that have recreational and medical. So we're still in the infancy stage, and the market is just open because I've seen a lot of people making money in this industry right
Let me shout out to Brother West Splash. Excellent info. Thank you for the 489 super chat. Shout out to my brother JJ Dubose. Thank you guys for being here. Let me ask you a more of a question as it relates to you. Um, have you made any profits in it, and how did you start? What kind of upfront costs did you need to do? Things like that.
So in terms of me, have I made profits? I've made a little bit of profit, not that huge. I started like 3-4 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So not I started the company 3-4 months ago, but I started last year, the upper year, going to conferences and all that, looking at what's trying to get my niche into the industry.
Okay.
So I've made some money, but right now I'm in the growing stage
Okay.
in terms of basically trying to make sure I network, make sure I understand the laws and the requirements, and make sure I get my face and my business out there. So it's a growing, like I said, I'm basically growing itself. So it just takes time to it.
Okay. Let me ask this question. What was your initial? I know you went to some of the conferences and some of the things like that to get into the learning curve. Talk about that and some of the things that you feel that one needs to do just to get familiar with this particular industry.
So one thing, so conferences are important. Going to conference, I went to the MJ conference last week in New Orleans. I did that. There's a lot of information there. I also went to last year in Las Vegas to another conference last year. So what I say, there's a low in terms of starting. I start with the tech. There's low. What I do is basically there's low entry into what I do. In terms of what I focus on is what I do, especially extraction processes.
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of chemical analysis, data and analytics.
Mm-hmm.
So I do all that marketing and that stuff. But there's a low. It depends on what you want to do. So if you want to own a dispensary, you have to get a license, and that's a high margin to enter. So there's a lot of requirements. Some of the requirements is you might have to have like $300,000 or $400,000 in capital before you even apply for a license.
Mm-hmm.
So that's for just a dispensary. So if you want to touch the cannabis product and get a license, there's a huge amount of money and capital that's
Mm-hmm.
needed to start that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm in the ancillary, so that I don't touch the product. I just solve problems for the product. So I don't. There isn't a huge margin of entry in terms of how much I need to spend. I just need to spend the capital I have with my partner and come up with solutions like software. Currently, I'm working on the software to help cannabis business owners. I'm also working on products and different type of products and software too for cannabis business. So the entry is depending on what you want to do. If you want to touch the products, there's a lot of capital needed in terms of
Mm-hmm.
dispensary, cultivation, courier service. You need some capital.
Okay.
But the good thing is Illinois currently passed a law that might help with that, especially for minorities, with scholarships or with ways to help pay for those licenses if you're a minority or if you're affected by cannabis laws and all that.
Well, let me do this, guys. Let me thank you for being here. We have 90 people watching on the main channel. Let me go ahead and put his channel there. This is the Engineering Cannabis YouTube channel. So he's just starting out on YouTube. If you guys want to subscribe to him, make sure that you click on that link, subscribe to him. You can go into the description that I have also. Hit the bell, subscribe to this. And let me ask you this: as far as you and your partner, because you talk about you mentioned your partner that lives in another state. How are you
Yeah.
able to locate a business partner for this? Like, what in deciding to partner up with somebody versus just doing it by yourself?
The decision of the partner it was easy. First thing, my partner is my brother.
Okay.
He's also an engineer. So my partner, my brother, is an engineer, and he has some knowledge and experience I don't have. He's a civil engineer. He has some experience in HVAC and all that. So it makes more sense to basically partner. So the way I partner is basically because the skills I lack, he has, and basically we can share the time in terms of developing software processes or
Mhm.
developing engineering products or anything to solve problems. And it's basically we have that, we're brothers, so we have that connection, and so we can just basically talk anytime and basically hash out any problems we have. So that's basically why I chose him. He's basically he has the experience I don't have, so that's why I chose him. And it's easier with a partner, so you can basically carry out some tasks. I am like me. I have a family. Uh, I have a 9 to 5 job. I come
Mhm.
back. I spend time with the family. After that, I go straight to my business. I work on. I have. I work on one of my videos. I show a board where I jot out all my ideas on the software program I'm creating or the products I need to create for the cannabis business or the extraction process I need to basically make better.
Mhm.
So I Skype with my brother online and say, okay, hey, these are the problems I'm seeing. This is how we need to market. This is how we need to basically solve the problems, and we just basically hash out ideas on basically the business itself. So I'm like everybody else. I'm just trying to do my 9 to 5, and at the end of the day, do my business at the same time. And with my partner, and I chose cannabis as a good niche because it's an
Mhm.
up and coming business, an up and coming industry that's still in the infancy. So I can build my own reputation in that industry itself.
Mhm. Let me ask you this: how much time have you been in this industry? Would you say
2 years currently,
two
in terms
years?
of 2 years, and 3 months is just basically when I just started the business.
Mhm.
But 2 years was basically researching, looking at laws, requirements, studying for the looking at problems that I can solve,
Mhm.
and basically going to conferences and talking to people. So 2 years has basically been that amount of time I've been looking into this business. Then I just decided, okay, it's time. I know what the problems are. I know I know where the conferences are. I know how to network with people. So
Mhm. Mhm.
why not just, and also if you notice, there isn't any YouTube channels that actually talk about cannabis businesses. If you Google YouTube channel and say cannabis business, all you see is channels that basically promote smoking weed or something like that. But there isn't any channel that basically discusses the business or discusses the licenses involved in it or
Why don't
discusses
you think that is?
one, YouTube is not going to pay you money to basically, there's no AdSense in this. So there isn't any
Mm.
AdSense or anything. And two, people are making money, so nobody's just gonna come in here and try to spill the secrets on how they make money or how the
Uh
business is
huh.
being run. Because right now it's the money coming into cannabis. Okay, I'm just gonna like the alcohol industry.
Mhm.
Currently, the alcohol sales are going down while cannabis sales are going up.
Mhm.
You can see that direct correlation. Cannabis is going, sales are going up, alcohol is going down. So currently, Constellation basically provided a non-alcoholic beverage with cannabis infused in it. Within 24 hours, that whole product sold out.
Wait, who
Within
did that again? Say it again.
Constellation, a non-alcoholic beverage
Right, with cannabis
with
infusion.
cannabis
How
infused.
much is it? By the way, that non-alcoholic beverage.
Right now, I can't even find it. It's sold out.
Wow.
It sold out within 24 hours, and they were
Yo.
just testing it. And this is not alcoholic. This is non-alcoholic.
Mhm.
So imagine what happens with an alcoholic beverage.
Mhm.
Now, people not, I always say, they always look at the future. So imagine you trying to infuse alcoholic beverage with cannabis. That itself is its own product. You don't know if you're going to sell it as a cannabis product or as an alcoholic beverage product.
Mhm.
It's its own product, which comes in with its own problems and with its own opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So that alone it's a moneymaker itself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the requirements in there is going to be huge,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to sell. And there are a lot of problems that's going to happen with that. But currently, I always tell people in my channel, look at Canada. I studied every laws in Canada because Canada is federally legal. So I tell people, look at Canada, study the laws in Canada, look at what's going on in Canada, because when it becomes legal in U.S., the only thing they're going to do is mimic the Canadian side. Because one, they're going to do export and import with Canada, and two, why not basically copy the people who already made the mistakes?
Mm-hmm.
So I always tell people, look at Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Canada should be your point where you know everything from trucking to alcohol to everything. That's what I always look at the laws in Canada and read it. Look at Canada and see how they design their cannabis business. See how they follow their requirements.
Mm-hmm.
And once you do that, basically you know the future. You have the future template for how the cannabis is going to be in the United States.
Mm-hmm. So although you have just um, 3 months and stuff like that, this business, you still see a lot of upside. When do you think that for yourself? Can you gauge when you think that with your part of the business, your niche, that you should expect to see some returns on it?
I expect to see some at the end of the year,
Mm-hmm.
because right now I'm already having a lot of networks with people who are cultivators, dispensary owners, because there's a lot of problems in terms of meeting requirements. How do these companies meet requirements? How do these companies make money? So there are a lot of problems in terms of cybersecurity. How are they going to protect the information for dispensaries? How are you going to basically do your extraction process correctly? So there are a lot of problems, and I'm seeing a lot of solutions I'm solving. So I'm looking at the end of the year to try to make a lot of profit in this. At the same time, basically work more on it too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, is it raining out there? Where you at?
Yeah, it's raining.
Yeah, okay.
It's raining.
Yeah, let me do this, guys. Shout out to my bro Beatology, man. He's a guy that is he's in the thrifting business. He gave me a hell of a show. So check out Beatology there. It's my bro out of Cali. He's a very, very bright guy. So guys who are interested in the thrift and clothing business, you got to definitely check out Beatology, man. Go subscribe to him. I got to get him back on here. For those people who want to subscribe, let's help the brother out, man. He has a lot of good information. I would like to introduce him to some of the other brothers that are on some of these other channels. You guys know my platform is kind of leaning towards the black male kind of business thing. I'm going to have a lot more of that coming this way throughout the remainder of the year. So we're going to start really talking more about building that business network for you brothers. If you guys have questions, there is the option for you to super chat, and then I will get to the question there. Now, let me talk about this. Some people, because you know how some people are, right? Like being associated with the cannabis business is something like taboo,
Okay.
Now, did you think about that? Because you're an engineer, obviously, that's a very well respected a degree in America, up there with, doctors and stuff like that. People have a lot of respect for engineers. Did you think like, this business, I don't want to taint my reputation, even though it's legal, but it has sort of a negative taboo with it?
So the question I asked is this. So the individuals who are currently in the business making millions of dollars, with the stigma of you have a cannabis business, do you think they don't sleep at night well? They sleep well. So
Right.
if I'm gonna capitalize on making millions of dollars, and you're gonna stigmatize my company as a cannabis business company, I'll ask, okay, what's the problem with that?
Right.
It's a product. It's not. It's a currently it's an illegal product in the federal level, but it's still a product. It's the same product like alcohol, the same product like sugar. It's a product. It helps people, and the goal of it is basically, especially for African Americans, this product has basically been torn and basically used in different ways to basically do a lot of bad things for the African American community. So now that's being profitable. Why shouldn't you profitize from this? Nobody should. The stigma, if there's a stigma in it, then why are states basically legalizing it?
Right. That's a
So
good
yes,
point.
yes, there's stigma. So fine. So what? That stigma is going to be okay. I run a cannabis business that follows state regulations, and I make profits from it, and I pay taxes on it. So what's yeah? That's the stigma. Deal with it. I'm an engineer. I have a background and I've done a lot of stuff. So you shouldn't be ashamed of basically opening a company that serves people. And if it's in cannabis industry, you shouldn't be ashamed of that. Just go for it and do it. There's a lot of money coming into it. There's a lot of profit coming into it. You can establish the company and basically help your family and generations to come. And when you go, when you die or anything, are you going to carry the stigma to you in the grave? No. When you when you go or die, what remains is the company and the profits that helps your family and everybody else. Nobody's going to remember he did a cannabis. Everybody will say, "Hey, the money from his company has helped his family and established his family for the next generation." So I'm not afraid of the stigma. If you tell me, "Hey, Patrick, you run a cannabis company," I say, "Yes, I run an engineering firm that serves cannabis business owners." If you don't like it, deal with it. But you shouldn't be afraid of the stigma. Because there are a lot of people. It's a $30 billion industry.
That's a lot of money.
$30 billion. Do you really want? Do you care about a stigma at that time, or you want to get a piece of your $30 billion? You don't care about that. A $30 billion industry, and you're concerned about stigma? Nah, that should be the furthest out of your mind.
Right.
Your mind should be how can I solve the problems these cannabis business owners have? How can I use my skills to solve those problems? That should be a question you should be asking. Your question should be, I don't get me wrong, I did quit, I did have that problem, but at the end of the day, I'm like, nah, I'm solving a problem, and I'm getting paid to solve the problem. That's it. And that should be it. You shouldn't worry about that stigma.
Let me, I had a cousin that wanted to go to Colorado. Like, I mean, obviously, to work in these industries, there's a certain age limit. I'm pretty sure, is that what it is?
Yes.
And typically, what is that age?
So it depends on. That's what I said. When you go into the industry, there are two sides. You either go to medical or recreational. So the recreational, you have to be 21 and up. The 18. Most states 18. So what state you go in? Remember when I said each state has different laws. So some state might be 21, some state might be 18. It just depends on the states you go into. And if you want to go into the industry as a cultivator, you can go in and get a license and do all that stuff you need and start cultivating. Dude, Miley Cyrus's father is cultivating weed currently right now. So there are a lot of people cultivating weed. A lot of stars, a lot of people. Mike Tyson has a weed shop right now. So there's a lot of avenue to basically enter this industry. All you need to do is basically identify a problem and solve it with the skills you have. And that's not that's the basically biggest you can get. Just find a problem and solve it. And if you have a skill, just solve it. That's it. And you can make good money from it.
Okay. Okay. So let me ask. I think that's pretty most of the questions that I had. Shout out to Brother Rashad Reed. He's a Patreon subscriber. I work for a company in the cannabis industry with full health benefits for my entire family, major health insurance. That yeah, I do hear that a lot of. Shout out to Brother Tony Maceo. You go to the article and listen to NegroMastery.com. A lot of people get that work in these industries. They have like really good benefits. They make a ton of money.
Instead, the cannabis industry now pays more than regular industry in terms of wage workers. They pay more than basically any industry in terms of wages.
Why do you think that is?
because of the product itself. Because there's a lot of regulations and requirements with it, on basically how to deal with it, on how to package it, and how to just basically dealing with it. Even one problem is it's called track and trace. Basically, you have to track and trace your cannabis from seed to sale. So basically, once it comes into the cultivator and it starts growing, he has to track it, track how much cannabis is in his facility. Then when the courier service carries it, they have to track it too. So that alone itself is a problem, because if you have problems in terms of data or in terms of basically computer services, someone with a IT background could just open a quick shop and serve all these IT needs, for courier service to dispensaries to anybody. Just because you have an IT background, you can go in and say, "Hey, I see you have a problem with your IT service," and they are mandated to do a track and trace. So each state basically you have to do track and trace. So if you have an IT background, you can go in and say, "Hey, the state mandated you have to do track and trace, and you have computer problems. I'm going to be IT. I'm going to be IT guy. I'm going to help you out." And you already start. That's a business alone. That's going to be profitable. So it's up to you, just what you want to do and what you want to start with.
Okay. All right. Well, let me do this for guys who have like any more information or questions. And what you can do is you can go directly to his channel right here. How to make good money in the cannabis industry, engineering cannabis. Guys, click on that link right there. Hit the bell and subscribe to him. And he has some really good information. As you can see, he's very knowledgeable in this. Brother, we have been trying to basically, do something, but you were busy and I was busy, but it was good. Hopefully, we can get you in the mix with some of my other guys on some of the tech shows. Anything else that you want to say?
Like I said previously, I'm like everybody else. I have a 9-to-5 job, and I have a skill I'm passionate about. And I decided, hey, this is an industry I can basically put those skills to use and make some money out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So my channel basically focuses my journey on going through this. I show what I do, what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to accomplish. So what I'm saying is this industry is in its infancy. So just join in, and basically you can do anything you want to do in this industry. And don't let anybody talk about the stigma on it. That stigma, I know millions of people. I went to a conference and I saw a lot of people in there making money. Someone is drying. I talked to someone who basically dries cannabis. He makes $2.3 million a day.
Whoa! What did you say?
$2.3 million a day drying cannabis. He's
drying.
Just drying. $2.3 million a day just drying.
Damn.
He's not processing it. He's just drying it, and makes $2.3 million a day. So why shouldn't you enter in this industry? There's a lot of opportunity, and he doesn't have any skill in it. He just hires somebody to, hey, run this machine for me and let it run at this temperature and let it dry. And he makes $2.3 million a day. So why shouldn't you enter this industry? I have a skill and I'm entering it. So if you have a skill or you have a passion for it, enter it. It's an infancy. You can make a lot of money in it. So go for
it. Okay. All right, guys. So listen, man. I definitely thank everybody for being here. Appreciate you, fam. I was glad to finally get to work with you on this one. Appreciate it. So, guys, make sure you go check out his channel and go subscribe. And, bro, thank you for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
All right, man. Thanks.
Peace.